The Little Mermaid live-action remake has finished its theatrical run, and will now live on my Disney Plus homepage for the foreseeable future, despite not quite living up to box office projections. The Little Mermaid remake is not a total disaster, but neither was it an unqualified success. No one other than Mickey Mouse's accountants know the exact numbers, but we can still be reasonably sure it didn't make or lose too much money either way, which has got to disappoint the Disney executives who decided to sink 9 figures in several years into the project to effectively break even.
Get busy while I go over my books.
Commentators have offered a lot of explanations for this, from the nightmarishly photorealistic talking animals to claims that the entire continent of Asia is somehow racist.
안 보셨는지 이유를 혹시 설명해 주실 수 있을까요?
일단 원작하고 너무 다른 느낌의 그 예고편을 봤었는데 너무 다른 느낌이었고, 예를 들어서 원작은 되게 밝은 이미지인데 예고편에서는 되게 심해고 되게 어둡고 막 이런 약간 조명으로 이렇게 디자인을 하셨길래 약간 원작하고 많이 다르겠다라는 느낌 때문에 안.
But there are two explanations that I think people are overlooking, both pertaining to time. The first is just how long this movie is, and the second is how long it's been since the original. The Little Mermaid is the longest live-action remake of a Disney Renaissance cartoon. It's not much longer than Lion King or Aladdin, but when compared to their respective originals, it is by far the largest increase, with nearly an hour tacked on to the original. And really, those movies had complex plots and sprawling casts, and the extra runtime was utilized to explore palace intrigue and such. Little Mermaid needed the extra time to include an explanation for King Triton being racist against humans.
They're savages.
You don't know that.
They killed your mother.
And a rap battle between Scuttle and Flounder. My daughter is the target age for The Little Mermaid, and I know a lot of parents of other little girls. When I brought up the enormous 2-hour and 15-minute runtime of this movie, every single one of them was astounded. No one could imagine devoting that much time to watching a remake of a movie when the original was freely available on Disney+. No one wants to buy 3, 4, 5 tickets for their family, and then leave before we even get to kiss the girl because the little ones are squirming in their seats. The filmmakers seem to have forgotten the attention span of their target audience. Again, it's not that much longer than Aladdin, but there has to be a tipping point somewhere, and I think Disney found it. 135 minutes is just too long for a movie about a mermaid who wants to be a part of our world. It was too much. Our tastes in everything from movies to music to fashion tend to solidify between our teens and our mid-20s. Sure, you'll continue to enjoy new movies in your middle age, but at that point, it's unlikely your favorite movie came out in the last decade. David Bordwell calls this the adolescent window. Pop culture in general, and movies in particular, have a nostalgia for things 20 or 30 years ago. That's because behind the scenes, the people who are making movies now were in their adolescent window back then. They're trying to recapture their childhood.
I got him! Reach Token cocky!
The lag actually seems to be getting a little bit longer recently, because boomer filmmakers and studio executives have held onto power in Hollywood longer than any previous generation, just like the politicians in Washington, D.C., which is why a show like Stranger Things premiered in the 20-teens instead of the 2000s. The thing about these Disney live-action remakes is, the originals were made for children before your adolescent window. The average age for an American to have their first child is 27, so 25 to 30 years is just about perfect timing for nostalgia. It means your child watching the remake will be approximately the same age you were when you watched the original. Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin were remade 26 and 27 years after their respective originals, almost exactly the perfect time. The Lion King was 25 years old when it was remade, which is probably close enough. The Little Mermaid was remade 34 years later, which means if you saw the animated film when you were 9, your firstborn would likely be 16, and far less interested in watching a Disney fairy tale with her parents. There were certainly people who enjoyed the movie on its own merits, up to $500 million worth, but the movie didn't get the nostalgia boost that it could have. The Little Mermaid was the first of the Disney Renaissance cartoons, and yet now seems likely to be one of the last in this cycle of Disney live-action remakes. It was just too late. Had The Little Mermaid been remade 8 years earlier, Halle Bailey likely wouldn't have been the star.
You're going to be working on The Little Mermaid.
I am.
A remake of that.
Yeah.
So, one of the controversies I'm reading about on social media is, do you keep your hair blonde or do you go to redhead?
It also would have come earlier in the remake cycle, which would have affected the perceived novelty of seeing it in live action. Not to mention the Disney Plus factor. How many parents decided to just wait to stream it in the comfort of their living room on a service they've already paid for? Disney had trained families to expect movies to come to their streaming service in 45 days, or even as little as a month. Now, they're trying to open the theatrical window again, giving Little Mermaid 103 days in theaters. But aside from the timing, I don't think there's any situation where a 2-hour and 15-minute singing mermaid movie is the biggest hit of the year.
Several song-filled hours later,
The Little Mermaid was just too much and too late. For more information, including sources and a list of movies used in this video, visit TooMuchFilmSchool.com. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more of these kinds of videos, hit the subscribe button. And if you want your friends to know what great taste you have in video essays, hit the share button. Thanks for watching.